The Aspen Ideas Festival likes big ideas, as we know. So I would like to propose a big idea, a proposition. The Food and Drug Administration should become an independent agency instead of being housed in Health and Human Services, modeled on the Fed, the SEC. It should become an independent agency. Who would support that? Show of hands. That's a pretty powerful statement. David and Andy, give me your best arguments.
David, you want to go first, or I'll start? Well, I think, first of all, the agency should be, in my opinion, what I describe as cabinet level. It's not a cabinet position, but it has cabinet level presence, much like the EPA. And there are other agencies that are not cabinet heads, but they are part of the cabinet. And the critically important part of that is because almost everything we do as an agency is interfacing or interacting with every other one of those entities. So the decision-making going on at FDA affects trade, it affects commerce, it affects defense, it affects our relationships at state, it affects agriculture. And so you really need to have that ability to interact at that level. The second part of the issue is the FDA is trapped in a structural problem. The structural problem is that it's part of Health and Human Services, and yet it is overseen by agriculture. So we get our budget from agriculture, but we function within the Department of Health and Human Services. So for a quick example, and I'll let others expand on it, when I had a significant challenge in IT, and we needed to immediately make some major changes at our field and our ports to be able to track imports, I couldn't get funding redeployed from the Secretary of Health and Human Services because if I was at NIH or NCI, I could have gotten it, but not at FDA because it was agriculture. And it would have to go all the way back through Congress to get reappropriated to be able to be used by FDA. So there are structural and functional problems with the way FDA fits in the government structure. But there's also great opportunity, I think, in terms of how it could function even better.
David?
We've studied the agency, 30, 40 years. It's really students of the agency. This is a very big question and pretty remarkable that the six of us raised our hands. I think certainly over the last decade, watching the agency from afar, the micromanagement from on top is probably gotten to the point where an independent agency is necessary. If you look at the major rules over the last number of years that have gotten out, they got out because someone sued the agency to get them out. That's no way a government should work. Look, this is not an issue about any of our bosses or the presidents of the United States that have been our bosses. But when you really count, there are 150 people between us, the commissioner, and that president, and they all think they're your boss. And that's the problem. There has just been the amount of micromanagement of the agency has gotten to the point where it needs to be addressed. A president needs to be able to trust their secretary and trust their agency heads to do the job. And that trust has not been there.